Aamir Qureshi, a ruthless Dubai millionaire, thought he had it all: wealth, power, and the perfect wife. Leena Qureshi, restless and ambitious, craved excitement she couldn't find in her gilded life. When she met Rashid Malik, a dangerous and arrogant millionaire, temptation turned into a deadly affair. But Aamir was no ordinary husband. He was a man who could see betrayal before it happened, and his revenge would be as brutal as it was brilliant. What happens when love, greed, and deception collide in a world where no secret stays hidden? Aamir Qureshi's life was the kind people envied. From the moment he stepped out of his luxury car, people turned their heads. Dubai's skyline reflected off the tinted windows of his towering penthouse, a perfect symbol of the empire he had built with relentless ambition. Every detail of his life, from the glittering parties to the high-stakes business deals, was meticulously planned, precise, and flawless. To the outside world, Aamir's marriage to Leena was the epitome of perfection. They were the glamorous couple that dominated social media feeds, their smiles always polished, their lives always picture-perfect. But behind the expensive designer dresses and the sparkling champagne, a subtle unease had begun to creep into Aamir's life. Leena, his wife of 6 years, was no longer the woman who had laughed freely at his private jokes, who had once whispered that she would follow him to the ends of the earth. Over the past months, Aamir had noticed changes he could not ignore. Leena's laughter had become quieter, more forced. Her eyes seemed to look past him, as if she were observing something or someone else entirely. Leena had always been ambitious, but now her ambitions seemed restless, insatiable. She lingered longer on her phone, answering messages with a quick smile that never reached her eyes. There were late nights at charity events she claimed were urgent, days spent shopping for clothes and jewelry she didn't need. Aamir's mind, sharp as ever, catalogued every anomaly with the precision of a detective, but he remained outwardly calm, pretending not to notice. Outward calm was his signature, an unshakable mask that hid the storm brewing beneath. It was at one of Dubai's high-profile business galas that the unseen danger revealed itself. The event was extravagant, glittering with chandeliers and gold-trimmed walls, the air thick with the scent of expensive perfume. Leena's eyes caught a man across the room, Rashid Malik, a millionaire with a reputation for charm, risk-taking, and excess. Aamir noticed the subtle shift in her posture, the way her smile faltered and then reappeared with an unfamiliar intensity. Something in her gaze lingered on Rashid longer than it should have, a silent spark that made Aamir's chest tighten, though he did not yet understand why. Rashid's charm was magnetic. He moved through the room with ease, laughing loudly, drawing attention without seeming to seek it. He approached Leena under the pretense of casual conversation, but the air around them seemed charged with something forbidden, something dangerous. Aamir watched from a distance, calm and calculating. He did not confront, did not speak, did not move. Instead he observed. Every gesture, every glance, every fleeting smile was logged in his mind, like pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, might reveal a betrayal he wasn't yet ready to name. Leena, for her part, was captivated. Rashid represented the thrill her life had been lacking, the danger that had been missing behind the curtains of wealth and luxury. Every laugh he drew from her, every whispered compliment, seemed to pull her further into a world where rules were optional and consequences were distant. She did not see the eyes of her husband tracing every step, the subtle tension coiling around him like a predator preparing to strike. That night, as Dubai's skyline glittered under the desert stars, Aamir returned home, alone. Leena arrived later, claiming exhaustion from the gala, her perfume carrying a trace of someone else's cologne. Aamir's mind raced, connecting small dots, noticing small discrepancies that, on the surface, seemed trivial. He had seen curiosity turn into obsession before. He knew what these small anomalies could become if left unchecked. But for now, he remained silent, the mask of a loving husband firmly in place, while beneath it, the first tendrils of suspicion began to twist into something darker, something that promised consequences far beyond a simple confrontation. It was a quiet tension, a dangerous calm before the storm, a storm that would change every life involved, revealing the fragile line between love, betrayal, and revenge. And as Aamir lay awake that night, watching the city lights flicker, he knew one thing for certain: nothing would remain the same, and the next move would belong to him. Leena's world had begun to tilt, subtly at first, like the quiet sway of a boat before a storm. The thrill of secrecy and the rush of forbidden desire consumed her more with each passing day. Rashid Malik was a dangerous allure she couldn't resist, a man who thrived on risk and lived life without rules. Every meeting with him was an escape from the suffocating perfection of her life with Aamir, a life gilded in wealth but sterile in emotion. She told herself she was only seeking excitement, yet with every stolen glance and whispered word, the thrill twisted into something deeper, darker, and irresistible. Rashid's world was dazzling. He owned properties that seemed plucked from dreams, and drove cars that roared through Dubai's streets like beasts of steel. But behind his charm lay arrogance, a careless disregard for consequences. Leena was drawn to it all, the danger, the secrecy, the illusion of freedom, but she did not yet see how precarious the balance had become. Each rendezvous was a calculated risk, yet she felt untouchable, shielded by the glittering armor of wealth. The clandestine meetings grew bolder. No longer content with quick encounters in dim hotel lobbies, Leena and Rashid moved to private villas, luxury yachts, and secluded beaches. The city, with all its luxury and light, became their playground, yet the shadows seemed to follow them. Leena felt a strange excitement every time she returned home, hiding traces of perfume, small gifts, or unexplained charges on their accounts. But the thrill was always accompanied by a faint, nagging fear, a sensation she tried to ignore, telling herself it was merely the adrenaline of romance. Farah Khan, Leena's oldest and closest friend, began to notice changes. She had known Leena for years, watched her grow from a spirited, trusting woman into someone who seemed increasingly distant. Farah noticed the way Leena's laughter had grown sharper, how her eyes darted nervously whenever someone asked about her night. Farah tried to ask questions, subtle at first, then more pointed, but Leena always brushed her off with light excuses, work dinners, charity events, or late-night business calls. Farah, though worried, had no proof of anything. All she felt was the creeping sense that something dangerous was taking root. Meanwhile, Aamir's intuition, honed by years of business battles and high-stakes negotiations, began to stir. He had noticed the subtle absences, the small lies, the hints of distraction. A phone left unattended, a whispered conversation cut short, a smile shared with someone unseen, all became pieces of a puzzle he could not yet fully assemble. Aamir did not confront Leena, not yet. He understood that a revelation too early could ruin his advantage. Instead, he watched, patient, observing the rhythms of her life as a general surveys a battlefield before striking. One evening, Leena received a message from Rashid that made her pulse quicken, a suggestion for a private meeting in a villa far from prying eyes. She felt the familiar rush, the intoxicating thrill of danger, and she accepted without hesitation. That night, under the glow of the city lights, she slipped away from the safety of Aamir's penthouse, her steps deliberate, her heart pounding with exhilaration and fear. But the city seemed different that night, heavier, almost watchful. Shadows seemed to cling closer, lights flickered at strange intervals, and the distant hum of traffic carried an edge of foreboding. Leena felt a small prickle of unease but dismissed it as nerves, the inevitable consequence of living so dangerously. She could not yet see that Aamir, in his silent, calculating way, had begun assembling his own plan, a plan that would turn this affair into a trap she could never escape. By the time she returned, tired and exhilarated, a quiet tension had settled over her home. Aamir was waiting, perfectly still, reading a book in the dim light of the living room. His eyes lifted briefly as she entered, calm and unreadable, yet the intensity in his gaze sent a shiver down her spine. For the first time, Leena felt the faintest shadow of fear, not of discovery, not of punishment, but of the unimaginable consequences of her own choices. And in that moment she could not know that the web she had spun for excitement was already pulling tight around her, inch by inch, in a way she could never have anticipated. Aamir Qureshi's patience was legendary, but even patience has limits. The subtle signs he had observed over months, Leena's nervous glances, the faint scent of another man's cologne, the unexplained charges and late-night absences, had crystallized into certainty. He no longer needed to guess. His wife was involved with someone else, and the man daring enough to cross his life was Rashid Malik, a millionaire known for arrogance as much as wealth. It began with small observations. Aamir noticed a hotel booking under an unfamiliar name, made on a credit card he barely used. At first he told himself it might be a business errand, an innocent indulgence of Leena's tastes. But the timing, the pattern, and the unusual secrecy of it all pricked at something deeper. His instincts, honed by years of high-stakes deals, told him this was not trivial. Something dangerous was taking root, and it was happening right under his nose. He decided to investigate quietly, employing a private investigator with a reputation for discretion. The man, discreet yet unflinching, began documenting Leena's movements. At first the evidence was circumstantial: familiar faces at late-night hotels, private cars parked outside her favorite restaurants, but soon it became undeniable. Photographs captured her entering villas with Rashid Malik, their body language intimate, too close for any casual acquaintance. Video footage confirmed it: whispered words, secret smiles, the clandestine closeness of a forbidden affair. Every image, every recorded moment was a testament to betrayal. Aamir did not confront them immediately. Confrontation, he knew, would serve no purpose without complete control. He spent nights studying the patterns of their meetings, analyzing Rashid's arrogance and Leena's recklessness. There was no doubt Rashid underestimated him. Rashid assumed Aamir's wealth and business preoccupations left him blind, unaware, and easily manipulated. But Aamir had watched silently, like a shadow, waiting for the perfect moment. Farah, Leena's best friend, unknowingly became part of the tension. She continued to notice Leena's erratic behavior, puzzled and concerned, unaware that her subtle questions only heightened Leena's anxiety. Each time Farah called or visited, Leena answered with forced smiles, her mind elsewhere, already replaying her encounters with Rashid. Aamir, too, watched Farah in passing, noting her loyalty to Leena and the potential for unintended exposure. He catalogued every detail: the people around them, the smallest cracks in their alibis, the fleeting gestures that revealed hidden truths. The most chilling realization for Aamir was the audacity of both Leena and Rashid. They believed themselves clever, untouchable, shielded by wealth and secrecy. They did not know that Aamir's patience was not weakness, it was a weapon. Each hidden hotel suite, each luxury dinner, each whispered conversation added layers to a trap he was meticulously designing. There was a cold satisfaction in knowing he held all the cards, yet he knew the final move had to be flawless, calculated down to the smallest detail. One night, while reviewing the evidence alone in his penthouse, Aamir felt a surge of controlled fury. The betrayal stung, but it also awakened something darker, a meticulous determination for revenge that would leave no trace of doubt or error. He imagined Rashid's arrogance shattering when confronted, Leena's charm dissolving under the weight of consequences she had never anticipated. His mind moved faster than any anger could dictate, plotting sequences, contingencies, and outcomes with precision only a man like him could manage. Aamir's life had always been about control, dominance, and calculated moves. Now betrayal threatened the very foundation of that life, but instead of panic, it provoked strategy. He would wait, observe, and strike, not as a man scorned, but as a man orchestrating the inevitable collapse of those foolish enough to cross him. The game had begun, and every move by Leena and Rashid unknowingly brought them closer to the trap Aamir had already set in motion. That night, Dubai's skyline glittered below his penthouse, beautiful and indifferent. Inside, Aamir's calm exterior masked a mind racing with possibilities, calculations, and a plan for a revenge that would be as brutal as it was brilliant. Every detail mattered, every movement of Leena and Rashid counted, and every second brought him closer to the moment when the facade of their lives would crumble completely. Aamir's plan had been taking shape for weeks, invisible yet meticulous. Every detail, every movement of Leena and Rashid had been catalogued and studied. He knew their patterns, their preferences, their assumptions about his oblivion. They believed themselves untouchable, confident that their wealth and charm placed them above suspicion. They did not realize how carefully Aamir had orchestrated every element of the coming night. It began with a seemingly innocent invitation. Aamir suggested a celebration on his private yacht, claiming it was a gesture of reconciliation, a night to enjoy life and cast aside tension. Leena's eyes lit up with a mixture of relief and curiosity. She sensed no threat in his tone, only the familiar polished charm of her husband. Rashid, meanwhile, accepted the invitation with his usual arrogance, assuming it would be another opportunity to flaunt his audacity, to assert control over a situation he believed belonged to him. The yacht gleamed under the Dubai moon, its white decks spotless, its interiors luxurious beyond imagination. As Leena and Rashid stepped aboard, they were greeted with champagne, sparkling lights, and music that seemed to breathe life into the night. The illusion of celebration was flawless. It masked the tension coiled beneath Aamir's calm exterior. Every waiter, every light, every arrangement had been positioned with precision, each element a part of a larger, silent strategy. From the first moments, Aamir observed, detached yet intensely aware. He noted the casual touches between Leena and Rashid, the subtle gestures that betrayed their nervous excitement. Rashid's smug confidence became almost tangible, his every move a step deeper into the trap he could not see. Leena laughed more freely than she had in months, oblivious to the eyes that followed her every movement, cataloging every sign of fear, every flicker of guilt. As the night progressed, the yacht glided over calm waters, the city lights twinkling on the horizon like distant stars. Guests, carefully chosen and briefed, mingled in the background, reinforcing the sense of normalcy. Yet behind the music and laughter, Aamir's plan was unfolding with chilling precision. Hidden cameras captured every detail, every whispered word, every glance shared between the lovers. It was documentation, evidence, but more than that, it was leverage. The night itself became a stage, and Aamir was the unseen director, orchestrating a performance that would end in revelation and reckoning. The tension grew when Rashid, emboldened by the champagne and the perceived control, began to brag about the affair, unaware that Aamir's calm gaze was fixed on him, measuring, weighing, understanding. Leena sensed the intensity but dismissed it as irritation or jealousy, never imagining the storm that simmered beneath her husband's polished exterior. Every word Rashid spoke, every boast was a misstep, a tightening of the noose that Aamir had placed without them noticing. As the yacht reached its midpoint, Aamir initiated the subtle maneuvers that would ensure control. Security discreetly closed off the perimeter, communications were monitored, and exits became limited. The atmosphere, though outwardly festive, had shifted imperceptibly, an invisible pressure tightening around the couple, unnoticed but undeniable. Rashid's confidence began to falter, though he did not yet recognize why. Leena felt a flicker of unease, a hint that the night was not what it seemed, but she attributed it to paranoia or the intensity of emotions, never considering the calculated genius behind the calm eyes watching her. By the time the first hour passed, the trap had been set completely. The yacht, luxurious and inviting, was also a cage. Beautiful, elegant, and inescapable. Aamir's patience, strategy, and ruthless intelligence had transformed the evening into a chessboard where every piece moved exactly as he desired. The first seeds of fear had been planted, and though Leena and Rashid remained oblivious, the stage was prepared for the coming revelation. And as the city lights shimmered against the dark water, Aamir stood at the edge of the deck, silent, composed, and deadly. In the stillness of the night he knew the moment of reckoning was approaching, a moment that would expose betrayal, arrogance, and desire in the harshest, most unforgettable way. The game had begun, and there was no escape. The night air on the yacht had grown heavier, charged with tension that Leena could no longer ignore. Something was different. The lights seemed brighter, sharper, as if illuminating the cracks she had tried so desperately to hide. Rashid, who had carried his arrogance like armor, began to fidget, sensing a subtle shift he couldn't identify. Aamir's calm, composed presence at the edge of the deck was unnerving, but neither of them realized just how deep the trap ran. Then Aamir acted, not with shouting or violence but with the cold, unyielding precision of a man who had anticipated every possible reaction. He revealed the evidence. Photographs, videos, records, proof of every meeting, every whispered secret, every stolen moment between Leena and Rashid were presented with an icy detachment. The images were undeniable. The realization hit Leena first, a wave of shock that silenced her laughter and drained the color from her face. She felt the weight of betrayal, not his but hers, pressing down in a way she had never imagined. Rashid's reaction was immediate but futile. Confidence crumbled into panic as he saw the proof laid bare. His bravado, so carefully cultivated over years of arrogance, dissolved under Aamir's gaze. He tried to speak, to justify himself, to convince Leena that he had the upper hand, but Aamir's eyes, sharp and merciless, cut through every lie before it could form. The security team, positioned subtly throughout the yacht, closed in quietly, ensuring that Rashid's attempts at escape were impossible. The realization that he had underestimated Aamir completely struck him with the force of inevitability. Leena's mind raced. She had lived in a world of illusions, believing that wealth, charm, and secrecy could protect her. Now, she understood the illusion was shattered. The man she had underestimated, her husband, the man she had once admired for his intelligence, was not only aware but had orchestrated the perfect confrontation. Every stolen kiss, every secret meeting, every whispered lie had been catalogued, and now every act of betrayal was about to be met with consequences she could not imagine. Fear mingled with regret, and the thrill she had once sought turned into a suffocating panic. Aamir did not shout, did not rage. His calm was more terrifying than any fury. Each word he spoke, measured and deliberate, carved the truth into the night. Rashid's desperation grew with every second. He had assumed he could manipulate, charm, or intimidate his way out, but Aamir's control was absolute. Every option for escape had been anticipated, every move countered before it could occur. Rashid realized too late that he had become a pawn in a game far more dangerous than he had imagined. As the confrontation escalated, Leena's regret deepened. She had betrayed not just her husband but the life she had taken for granted. The luxury, the parties, the excitement, all of it had been fleeting, meaningless compared to the cold reality of Aamir's strategy. The man she had thought she could manipulate had been manipulating her all along, and the realization was unbearable. She felt trapped, isolated in a gilded cage, and powerless to undo the choices that had led her here. In the silence that followed, Aamir allowed the weight of the moment to sink in. Rashid, removed from the situation physically but destroyed in every other sense, was gone from public view, his arrogance dismantled by careful planning. Leena, shattered and exposed, could no longer hide behind charm or excuses. The night ended not with screams or chaos but with a quiet, chilling understanding. Betrayal carried consequences far beyond imagination, and the man who had been wronged was neither blind nor impulsive. He was precise, ruthless, and unrelenting. Dubai's skyline sparkled beyond the yacht's railings, indifferent to the destruction of illusions and the collapse of arrogance. Leena would never forget the cold clarity of Aamir's mind, nor the terrifying elegance of his revenge. Every secret had been revealed, every deception punished, and the consequences were permanent. The night had ended, but the echoes of betrayal and the brilliance of Aamir's vengeance would linger, haunting every thought, every memory, and every choice she would make from that day forward. The city of Dubai never slept, but for those who had crossed Aamir Qureshi, the nights had grown long, heavy, and silent. The aftermath of that fateful night on the yacht had left ripples that reached far beyond the penthouse and the glittering skyline. Leena moved through the days in a daze, haunted not just by her own choices but by the calculated brilliance of her husband's vengeance. Every glance she cast in the mirror reflected the woman she had become, trapped, exposed, and powerless to reclaim the life she had so carelessly risked. Rashid Malik had disappeared from the public eye entirely. No calls, no sightings, no explanations, only whispers of scandal and rumors of humiliation circulated among Dubai's elite. He had underestimated Aamir's meticulous planning and overestimated his own charm. What had seemed like freedom and defiance ended in isolation, a fall so sudden and complete that even his wealth could not shield him. The arrogance that had defined him was gone, replaced by a cautionary silence that no one dared question too closely. Aamir, for his part, resumed his life with a chilling calm. Business deals continued, social appearances were polished, and the world saw only the same confident, composed man. But beneath the surface, every movement, every relationship, every glance was weighed, measured, and catalogued. His revenge had been executed with precision, leaving no trace of impulsive rage, only the undeniable consequences of betrayal. Dubai's glittering lights reflected off his penthouse windows, a mirror of his empire, beautiful, untouchable, and carefully controlled. Farah Khan, Leena's closest friend, finally began to piece together the fragments of what had happened. She had sensed tension, noticed Leena's odd behavior, and understood that something catastrophic had unfolded, but the full truth remained elusive. The secrecy surrounding Aamir's actions, combined with the disappearance of Rashid, created an atmosphere of mystery that fascinated as much as it terrified. Farah realized that wealth and social standing could mask even the darkest of schemes, and that human pride and desire were vulnerabilities Aamir had exploited with terrifying effectiveness. Inspector Tariq entered the picture months later, summoned by reports of Rashid's sudden disappearance and the strange anomalies surrounding the yacht incident. His investigation was thorough, meticulous, and relentless. He pieced together evidence, traced patterns, and uncovered fragments of communications that revealed the affair, the betrayal, and the calculated revenge. But even with his skills, the full extent of Aamir's orchestration remained almost mythical. Aamir had left no loose ends, no confessions, no incriminating errors. The detective realized that some men were untouchable not because they were flawless, but because they were far more cunning than anyone dared imagine. Leena's life became a cautionary tale. She moved through the city like a shadow of herself, wealthy yet powerless, surrounded by luxury yet trapped by guilt and fear. Every encounter reminded her of the night when secrets were unveiled, and every whisper of Rashid's name echoed with the memory of his downfall. She understood that trust, once broken, could never be restored, and that some mistakes carried consequences too heavy to bear. Aamir's empire continued to thrive. His reputation for brilliance and ruthlessness grew, admired and feared in equal measure. The world saw the successful businessman, the charming husband, the man in control of every aspect of his life. What they did not see was the darkness beneath, the quiet satisfaction of a man who had orchestrated the perfect revenge, whose patience and intellect had turned betrayal into a masterclass in strategy and control. In the end, the story left an indelible mark on all who knew it. Dubai's elite whispered about the events in hushed tones, wary of crossing the line between curiosity and danger. Leena remained a warning, Rashid a vanished shadow, and Aamir an untouchable force, a man whose brilliance was as chilling as it was unstoppable. The echoes of betrayal and revenge lingered long after the city lights faded into night, a reminder that in a world of wealth and power, no secret remains buried forever, and no deception goes unpunished.